Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Varied Gary Podcast number 20. This episode I've been waiting to do for a long time now. It's about sleep apnea. I sat down with Ellen Martell from Sleep Therapeutics in Halifax, Nova Scotia. We had a pretty good chat, and I feel there's a lot to take home from this. So if you're worried about sleep apnea, if you may have it or a loved one, check out this podcast. You might learn a thing or two. It was definitely interesting, and she's a great talker. Ellen's just wonderful to sit down and chat to. She is full of knowledge, so hope you enjoy the podcast, and here you go. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm sitting down with Ellen Martell from Atlantic Sleep Apnea, but it's also known as Sleep Therapeutics, right?
Yes, that's our new name now, Gary.
Oh, that's
yes.
how it went. Okay, I
yes.
looked you up on Google just to kind of see exactly that I don't pronounce anybody's name wrong and whatnot, and
yes.
I came up with another name. I was like, oh no, what do I do now?
Yes.
And that was last night, so yeah, thanks again for having me. It's very nice of you to take some time out and, you know, talk about what I like to talk about, what I've been talking about on my podcast now for a few weeks and on Instagram and whatnot. And so...
Very good. You're welcome.
Thank
it's
you,
my
thank
pleasure.
you very much.
Yes, you're very welcome.
All right, so, well, I guess I'd said to you earlier it's going to be like a casual conversation.
Yes.
But I know you're busy. And so I wrote down some things that I like to get to.
Okay.
Or whatever.
Great.
So we'll just start with how you got into this line of work and how long you've been around for it.
Yes. I'm in my 21st year doing this work. I came upon it by mistake one summer when I was looking to change careers and learned about respiratory therapy. This is the field that I'm trained in. And went back to school to study respiratory therapy, and it's quite a varied field. You can work at the hospital, you can work in a clinic like this, and I did a placement during my training in a clinic like this, and my background is teaching, and it really, really fit the bill for me. Nice. So took a job before I graduated in a field like this, and I've been doing it ever since.
Really? So
I've really found my niche.
Yeah?
I love it.
You really love it, eh?
Really love it.
Yeah.
It's a combination of teaching, but also a medical type field. So
oh, that's fantastic.
It's great. I can do both.
It's just it's an amazing, to me, this is amazing. Like how much of your health can go downhill just from one of the most important things that nobody thinks about every night they go to sleep.
Absolutely. Sleep is absolutely crucial. We often refer to sleep as one of the 4 pillars of health. Healthy eating, exercise, sleep. That's the third. That's one of the 4, and maintaining good oxygen level.
Yeah.
And it's really still a bit understood, a little bit misunderstood, the impact of poor sleep, whether it's from sleep apnea or a sleep disorder or just broken sleep in general, whether it's due to the effects of pain or stress or poor sleep hygiene, poor sleep habits, or whether it's working shift work, something like that. It will impact your health in the same manner. Right.
And that's one thing that I always thought about. I've always been a laborer for like my work, how I make my money, and so I've been on different shift work. So I always thought. I walked around kind of in a haze for years.
Yes, I bet.
Sore body constantly. I really noticed that my legs, especially, were really sore. And I always just thought it was like, oh, it's just this line of work. I should have, went a little bit further with school and whatnot.
Yes.
But the truth is, it was just something that I wasn't aware of.
Yes.
And I've always been active, eating good, what I thought anyway, right up till a couple of years ago, and then I started working out and eating really healthy and whatnot, and then so I started to feel better, but it still wasn't enough, and then I started reading about sleep cycles and whatnot, and then I was like, well, I should probably get this looked at. There was many things that I tried. I had girlfriends mention to me before. I had this one girl that I live with. She mentioned to me that I grind my teeth in my sleep and I snore and stop breathing in my sleep. Of course, I was just whatever.
Yeah.
And then later on, when it became a problem in the relationship, then I was like, well, I better get this fixed up. And I got, I think it's called a Somnodent mouth appliance.
Yes.
And it lines your bottom jaw up with your top.
Yes.
And it only took like a matter of months before that wasn't working. So then I decided to go even further into it.
Yeah.
So what exactly are the different types of apnea that are out there?
Essentially, there are two. You can have a mix of the two. It's still a cessation of breathing. So it's stopping breathing. The actual definition of apnea in sleep apnea diagnosis is the cessation of breathing for at least 10 seconds. The predominant type of apnea is obstructive, and that's predominantly what we're testing for, is obstructive sleep apnea or obstructive apnea, where the jaw is falling back and it's narrowing the airway and blocking the airway either partially or completely. And then you stop breathing because you can't breathe. The other type of apnea is called central apnea. Sometimes it can go hand in hand with the obstructive, especially in a very severe sleep apnea case, or in cases of narcotic painkiller use, or post-concussion syndrome, any trauma to the head, epilepsy, those types of things. Anything that affects the breathing center that's in the brain. And essentially, your airway's open, that's fine, but your breathing center's not sending the messages to the breathing muscles to take the breath.
Right.
So you just don't breathe. You could breathe if your muscles were getting the signal to breathe.
Yeah, right.
But you just don't. It's like just a pause in the breathing.
I do notice that sometimes. If I'm just about to fall asleep,
yes,
like just on the edge of it,
yes,
then I'll. It's the weirdest thing. I'll just be like, did I just take a breath? No,
right.
Like it seems so silly and it's such a natural reflex.
Yes,
but
it is.
You can not do it sometimes.
That's correct. Yeah. So it depends on the stage of sleep as well, or if you're changing position. It might be a breath hold as you're changing your sleep cycles too.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right.
You might feel it.
What are the different types of treatments for different apneas? Because a more serious apnea, for example, some things I was reading they use in the hospital, the BiPAP, and then there's the one I use is the CPAP.
Yes.
And so one's a continuous positive airway pressure,
right,
and bilevel positive airway pressure.
Yes, exactly.
So what are those the two types of machines that they deal with it?
Essentially, yes. There are different brand names within each category. Different modes within each category, but essentially, if it's straightforward obstructive sleep apnea where the airway is blocking, we need to push air down and open up the airway. So that can be done with either unit, but a basic CPAP is generally all that's required. If the obstructive sleep apnea becomes more severe, or you have other health conditions that complicate it, like breathing troubles like COPD and emphysema, heart failure, or you're exhibiting signs of the central apnea over outside the normal range of up to 5 times an hour, and you've got reason for it, like you're taking narcotic pain medication, you've got congestive heart failure, you've got kidney failure, you've got epilepsy, some explanation for the central apnea, or sometimes it can be induced because of severe obstructive sleep apnea.
Yeah.
Then you go into more of a bi-level therapy, which is still air pressure to open up the airway, but it's a 2-pressure system as opposed to a 1-pressure system, which is CPAP.
Okay.
So on a bi-level, the higher pressure on breath in will help expand the lungs and take a deep breath and get the oxygen flowing through. The lower pressure on the breath out helps to keep the airway open and prevent the sleep apnea. Oh, wow. The more complicated bi-level therapy machines also have what they call a backup respiratory rate, and they actually sync with the patient and learn the patient's breathing and move with the patient's need. So it's almost like a timer that kicks in to treat the central sleep apnea when the patient is not breathing. So more so for the complicated cases, we use the bi-level therapy.
So the bi-level, the CPAP, the regular CPAP that I would use,
yes,
it goes off of my breaths?
Yes, you're just drawing the air in when you're ready for it, and it's maintaining an airway splint all the time.
Yeah. In
your airway, which is why when you start your CPAP up, it's not starting at 0 pressure.
Yeah,
it's maintaining at 4, 5, or 6, whatever's comfortable,
right.
So that when you're falling asleep, the machine is all ready to hold the airway open, and then it reacts to you if it's an auto mode, so that the more relaxation you have and deeper sleep, or laying on your back, for example, it reacts more quickly.
Right.
And it puts more pressure in the airway.
Yeah, I've noticed that
Yes.
even when you, like I was sitting there and I'll put it on just before I go to bed, and sometimes I'll take the slightest breath just to see how responsive it
Yes.
is. And it's there before you even before you even notice you're getting air into your lungs.
Yes.
All you have to do is kind of like just open up your mouth really without your mouth really being open, and you can hear it starting to work because it senses the pressure in your nose changing.
Yes, exactly.
Which is it's kind of neat. Like it's I don't know.
It's very different.
I'm kind of geeky over this.
Yeah.
I really am.
Playing with it and see what it can do. But that's good because you're understanding how it's working.
Yeah.
What affects it and what affects the therapy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I think that's great.
Actually, what's the distilled water in the machines for?
The water itself is to create humidity, to make the air pressure more comfortable and not drying. Distilled waters to prevent sediment from building up in the water chamber.
Okay, all right.
It's not to protect you, but it's to prevent sediment and potential corrosion of the water chamber.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had that for one of the last questions I'd throw in.
Yes,
that I just
good
thought
stuff. That's good to know.
All right, well, I guess we'll talk about the different sleep cycles.
Right.
And how important they are, and actually what they are.
Right.
So I was
Sounds great.
listening when they were describing it in the Sleep Therapeutics and Churro, but I was kind of I had the machine actually. I was just trying it on for the first time.
Okay.
So paying attention was like
That's right.
It's like I can breathe now. I can do this.
You were focusing on your breathing. Yes,
That's right.
Very good. It's very interesting to have the most restful restorative sleep. Optimal for an adult is to have 7 to 8 hours unbroken sleep. And the reason for that is there are sleep cycles we go through. A sleep cycle, or a sleep epoch that it's called, lasts an hour and a half, 90 minutes. We need to go through 4 to 5 of those full cycles per night, unbroken, to wake up feeling restored, mentally and physically. The sleep cycles comprise 4 sleep stages. The first one is, of course, awake. The second one is light sleep. The third one is deep sleep. Those are all called non-REM, where your body is basically at maximum relaxation, almost paralysis is that relaxed in the deepest of sleep. Your eyes are still, your brain is not active, and that's restorative for your body. So that's where your body will heal, restore, rest, build immunity, and be strong. That's makes you feel rested.
Right.
Once you go through those 3 non-REM stages, that comprises about 75% of that cycle. The last 25% is a light phase of sleep, which a lot of people are surprised about, called REM sleep. So you come back up to have some REM. And REM sleep, although light sleep is extremely important, REM sleep is the dreaming sleep cycle or sleep stage. And it's in that stage that you dream to get rid of conflict and stress from your day that you haven't dealt with. Helps clear the mind. It's like defragging and cleaning the computer.
Really?
Cleaning the brain.
Huh.
Yes, so it's clearing the mind, sharpening memory and focus and concentration and learning. So it's putting those experiences from the day or the learning into the permanent file.
Wow.
So very necessary.
Yeah, so I've been really involved in the physical healing of everything. But yeah, the mental, I wasn't aware of.
Yeah, it's a 2-part.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
It's
remarkable because symptoms people have might be physical in the body, but also in their their mental processing or lack of focus or concentration, or their memory is really, really, really poor for short-term recall. Yeah.
Right.
So there's a lot of improvement. Your body is very busy during sleep, going through those 4 cycles, or 4 stages.
You're right, yeah.
In 90 minutes, and then you do it again. And every time you go through it, the deep sleep becomes a little shorter, and the REM sleep becomes a little longer. So every sleep cycle is equally important. It has work to do, and that's why your body needs energy and good sleep and long enough to get through it all so it can do all the repair and the work.
Right.
And
wow, that's quite the design.
It is, where our bodies
so
are like
strange.
machines and computers, and it just does it automatically. And the factors, and obviously we might talk about sleep hygiene in a little bit, but factors, environmental factors, and health will impact the sleep and the sleep stages. For example, drinking caffeine too close to bedtime, or alcohol will decrease your deep sleep.
Yep.
Well, we now know what deep sleep will do for our bodies. You may still be in bed your 7 or 8 hours, but most of that time then is shared among the light sleep and the REM sleep.
Yeah, right.
So you're getting...
Well, all right. Well, since you mentioned alcohol, we'll go with the other newest legal one now, like marijuana. How does the marijuana affect the sleep?
That I haven't had a lot of experience with yet.
Right.
I have to do some research to really understand how that will impact sleep.
Yeah, I've heard a couple things about about disrupting your REM sleep, or disrupting your sleep cycles as well.
That would make sense.
Right? Not because it's causing like an apnea, but it's because it's not allowing you to dream and process things.
Yes. And if it's a stimulant, like caffeine or even alcohol, or stress or anything, any kind of stimulant is going to...
Cigarettes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sugar is going to disturb your sleep staging.
Sugar's one of the first ones that I noticed, actually. I can't even remember what I was doing, but I ended up having a big piece of cake or something before I went to bed one night, and it just... I couldn't keep the mask on at all.
Interesting.
And but they said sugar causes inflammation too, doesn't it?
Oh yes, definitely.
So that wouldn't help me in my case with my narrow little nasal passages.
That's correct. Exactly. Yeah, that's right. So, yep. Exactly.
I'm just going to make sure this is all recording still. Yes, we're good.
Perfect.
New camera.
Great.
All right, so I guess we talked a little bit about the cycles there.
Yes.
We'll just go into my sleep study.
Certainly.
Like I said before we turned on the camera, I always knew I had something wrong with my sleep growing up, but I just, never really was around anybody that told me and stopped sleeping, whatever. Played a lot of sports. I was always a tired kid.
Yes.
Prescribed with ADD when I was a child, so I always just thought a lot of things were confusing because of that.
Yes.
Memory, I don't know. I don't know what happened there, but like I showed up here a week early, like I'm talking. I have a great memory now, but yeah, I decided to go and get the sleep. And when I got these test results back, and when we were going through the numbers, I thought she grabbed the wrong sheet, the wrong printout or something, because I had no idea. So maybe we'll just go through the numbers. I have a picture of this that I'm going to put on the podcast. So if you want to just run through the numbers there?
Certainly. All right. Well, first of all, what it's recording, Gary, is your sleeping position. And that's important because sleep apnea, obstructive sleep apnea, is predominant in deep sleep, can be in REM sleep, but also tends to be worse on your back because of gravity. Okay. A lot of the root cause of sleep apnea is the size of the jaw or the nasal passage, as we were talking about. And if you're smaller, narrow, or crowded, you're more likely going to have sleep apnea.
Right.
You have some weight gain, it's just going to complicate it. So on your back, the forces of gravity will pull the jaw back much more frequently to a greater degree, which is the reason that we are recording your body position. And this is very typical elements that are recorded on, we call a level 3 sleep study, which is a home sleep study that records everything except basically your brain waves.
Okay. And that has actually gotten better throughout the years too, the actual study and the equipment that you have to wear to sleep.
Absolutely. Much more reliable, easier to use on the patient's part. And that gives us more, accurate data to work with and reliable results.
Right.
No question.
Okay.
So first of all, this recorded that you slept on your back predominantly, as a matter of fact. Most of the study was back. So it's recording through a nose cannula your breathing. And as your airway is narrowing, your breathing will go down, your mouth will open, you'll be struggling for breath. So as the airway is becoming more narrow, advancing beyond snoring, then it's recording the decrease in the flow. So if you decrease your flow to 60% of a full breath, we get into a state called hypopnea. which is shallow breathing. And shallow breathing doesn't sound as scary, but it has the same effect as apnea.
Oh, okay.
So hypopnea will drop your oxygen level, and if it drops at 3 points, it's considered to be a true hypopnea.
Okay.
So on your study here, Gary, you only had 2.2 hypopneas per hour, or 10 the whole night.
Okay.
That is generally considered to be in the normal range.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah.
Normal range for all of these events, we call them, is 0 up to 5. Then the airway continues to narrow as you try to enter deep sleep. And as it narrows more, it may completely collapse, as we know, which is called obstructive apnea. This is predominantly what you experienced 56 times per hour on this night, or 252 times in the night.
Yeah, that's one night.
One night you stop breathing. And you
Yeah.
stop breathing for at least 10 seconds and dropping your oxygen level.
Yeah.
Central apnea, which is the breathing center not getting the message to breathe, was really not a factor for you. You only had 0.7 per hour, so that's fine.
Okay.
Mixed apnea is kind of a mixture of central and obstructive. And again, that's in the normal range at 4.5. So it's predominantly obstructive sleep apnea for you. Now, non-supine, which is something other than your back, could be your side or your stomach.
Oh, okay.
It did not record any time in that sleep position
Ah,
to
okay.
speak. 3 minutes.
Right.
3.9 minutes. So you were fine on your side. You're obviously comfortable sleeping on your back.
Yep.
And
I've actually practiced
normal.
sleeping on my back because I knew I was probably going to end up using machines. So
Oh, I see.
I didn't
Okay.
know how it was going to work, but actually these machines are pretty good because they stay really snug on your face, and there's
Yes.
various masks that you can wear.
Absolutely.
They had the nose pillow for me at first.
Yes.
Those
Nice
two.
and small.
Those didn't work too well because of my freakishly small nose.
Right.
It was pushing it up and
Yes.
whatnot. I couldn't get it comfortable.
Okay.
Then I got the mask, the one that just goes over my nose.
Yes.
And I noticed it's really hard to get a leak in that.
Very stable.
You have to really try to you have to physically move it on your face in order to
Absolutely.
get it to leak. And so I started sleeping on my side just
Okay.
recently.
Okay.
And when I noticed, as soon as I went on my side, it was easier to breathe through the mask.
Yes.
And it's still forcing air, but that's just an example of like laying on your back versus your side.
Laying on your side. And of course, we want you to lay where you're comfortable.
Yeah.
And as far as, working with the CPAP, we want to give you the right mask to work for you, depending on how you're comfortable laying.
Right.
And there are so many, as you've experienced, that
Yeah, I see different.
Find the right one.
I see different ones. I don't buy online because I like to have somebody else's opinion, like a specialist
and
as
be
yourself.
fitted. Yes, absolutely correct.
But I noticed that there's a lot of different styles.
Many.
People on Instagram, when I started actually recording my progress on this sleep apnea, people were messaging me from all over the place.
Wow.
And they're sending pictures like, this is where I wear to sleep, and this is what I wear to sleep, and whatnot. And I was like, oh, geez, I'll keep that in mind if mine starts to be a problem or
Absolutely.
whatever. So I figure I'm coming in, I think my next checkup is in December. I think it was every 6 months they want you to go in.
Yes, once you're settled and doing well, then every 6 months.
Yeah,
Yes.
so if it's a problem, then I might ask them if I can try
Yes,
something different.
absolutely.
But I'm going to keep on going with what's working for me.
It's always an
again.
option. They're always designing new masks. All the research and development money goes into inventing new masks.
Yeah.
Because that's the most important piece in, your awareness of the equipment.
Do you ever think there's going to be a time where you just shove something up your nose and then you're going to be like, sleeping
Might
like
be
that?
easier.
It might be
You
easier.
never know with technology.
Yeah.
Anything's possible. The sky's the limit.
They actually had, you mentioned that I held my breath for probably 10 seconds
At
or
least.
more.
Yes.
91 seconds, I think, is what they said at one point.
Okay, yes. There we go. That's what I was looking for earlier. So your longest apnea.
Yeah.
Yes, 1.5 minutes.
That's
And,
to hold my breath right now. That would be like kind of a struggle.
It's almost impossible. And what's even more difficult to do. Oftentimes what we'll do with patients in the clinic to really demonstrate apnea, this is not you taking a big breath in and hold your breath for a minute and a half, because many people could do it. This is you exhale all the way out and empty your lungs, and then you hold your breath.
Oh.
Because apnea
That's a lot
happens
different.
at the end of exhalation, that you don't have the support in there and it collapses. That's a whole lot different.
Oh, right. I never even thought of that.
And that's why the CPAP works by maintaining the pressure on inspiration and expiration.
Yes.
Because when you exhale, you need that pressure held in the airway to prevent it from collapsing.
Yeah. And it kind of did feel unnatural when I first put that on.
I bet.
But after the first, literally after 2 nights, I was like, oh, I get it.
Yes. Yes. You get the rhythm of your breathing, and the more you relax, the easier it is. It's all about relaxing.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's great.
Excellent. The next piece to review are the oxygen levels, because this is the really important part about sleep apnea. This is where the health impact is predominantly with sleep apnea.
Okay.
Just snoring and just some airway narrowing is not going to drop your oxygen level. I'm just looking to see. The snoring was moderate, so you had some moderate, fairly frequent snoring, but snoring is not sleep apnea.
Yeah.
So we're dropping oxygen level now because you have narrowed your airway more. So now we're looking at the oxygen level. See if I have your baseline, call it your baseline oxygen level here. Your average oxygen level started at 91%. Your baseline, so 91 to 92 was your starting oxygen level, and that's measured on the finger typically.
Yeah, right.
And someone with healthy lungs, healthy heart, their oxygen saturation should be in the 90s. And that's what we call the safe zone.
Okay.
When your airway is narrowed or blocked completely and you can't breathe, you can't get new oxygen supply into the body. So the oxygen that's there is getting used up, and the oxygen in the blood starts to go down. Oh, okay. And what we're marking here is your lowest oxygen level during your sleep, and that was 74%.
Oh, okay.
And that would have been during one of those apnea events.
Right.
And that's concerning, because any oxygen level that goes out of the safe zone below 90 will start to affect your body in a negative way. This is the health impact.
Okay.
What it does is causes constriction from your neck down of the blood vessels. And the more you tighten blood vessels, the higher the blood pressure potentially.
Okay.
The more stress on the heart, and it sets you up for the complications of untreated sleep apnea, like high blood pressure, heart attack, stroke. So 74 is a concern. Anything below 90 is a concern. So we mark your lowest oxygen level here. At the same time recording the oxygen saturation, we record your pulse, because your pulse is an indication that your heart is working hard.
Right.
Normal pulse for a resting adult, 60 to 90. It's a little bit of an individual normal. Some have a kind of a low normal, some have a higher normal, but 60 to 90 is generally fine for an adult.
Okay.
So your average pulse rate, or your heart rate during your sleep, was 73. Perfectly fine.
Okay.
It should be maintaining around 73, 60, 70 sort of numbers. But your highest pulse rate during your sleep went into the 200s.
Yeah. So,
that's your heart racing.
So how fast would it go from 73 shooting up past?
Fairly quickly.
Like within a couple breaths?
Probably within 30 seconds, I suppose.
Really?
Yes, yeah, it would go pretty quickly.
So
yeah.
if you had any problems with your heart, that would be the test to see.
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah. So this is the concern with the obstructive sleep apnea, is really the stress on the heart, and that this is breaking your sleep, because when you're in that event, we call it, or that sleep apnea occurrence, your body is struggling.
Right.
Your body is now producing adrenaline and cortisol. It's no longer relaxing. It's working to breathe. The pulse will race. You'll be flushed. It's like you're running a race.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to be sleeping and resting.
You're supposed
but
to
you're
be
working.
resting, right.
You're on a really good run on the treadmill. So your body will give you a shake when the oxygen level for Gary goes too low, and your body will stir you, your breathing center will tell you to change position and take a breath, so you come out of deep sleep you're trying to remain in to be rested,
Right.
to take the breath to regain the muscle strength and control and come out of the event. And then you may turn over, or you just change position a little bit, or change sleep stage more so.
Right.
So now instead of staying in deep sleep, you're back up to light sleep again, or almost awake.
Just constantly.
Broken sleep. And we know what broken sleep does.
Yes.
It's going to cause us now to be short on the dream sleep or the deep sleep, and our bodies will be impacted by that.
Right.
Negatively.
Now, what kind of impacts do you see from people with sleep apnea that don't catch it really in time?
It's the obvious, there's symptoms first, and then almost like side effects, or we call comorbidities, or health diseases that set in as a result of not treating it. Typically, people come in with two predominant symptoms: snoring,
Yep.
that someone has observed,
Yep.
and sleepiness.
Yes.
And the sleepiness will be sensed by the patient. The snoring is sensed usually by a bed partner.
Yeah.
So those are very, very typical. Fatigue or feeling drained is also fairly typical. Sleepiness a little more. Other very common symptoms would be morning headache, and that's as a result of the oxygen level dropping and the blood vessels in the head enlarging, opposite to the rest of the body. You enlarge the blood vessels, headache is a result.
Right.
So morning headache is a flag, because when you wake, you shouldn't have a headache when you wake if you've had a good sleep and oxygen levels are fine. Sometimes people are monitoring their blood pressure, so morning high blood pressure is also a flag. Dry mouth is a very common symptom, and that's from snoring and mouth breathing. Very, very common.
Right.
Those are the typical. We've had atypical as well, people coming in with no other reports of nightmares or leg cramps.
Really?
Yes.
Nightmares?
Nightmares.
Leg cramps. Is that called a
Yes.
restless leg syndrome or something like that?
It's a different thing.
Okay.
Restless leg syndrome it's not a sleep disorder, but it's a condition that occurs predominantly leading up to sleep.
Okay.
It's a feeling of needing to move the legs. It's
okay.
a creepy, crawly kind of feeling. It's more of a neurological condition.
Jeez, I'm glad I don't have that.
It can be debilitating. Yeah, usually settles once you get to sleep.
Okay.
Through the sleep, you can have legs that move frequently in the sleep. That's a different kind of sleep disorder as well. But cramping of the legs or poor blood circulation, it can be certainly many things. But
Right.
when you're cutting the oxygen levels back and you've got blood vessel constriction, often, you'll feel something in your body. And some people have had, cramping in the legs or aching in the legs. And,
Yeah,
when they've
definitely
been
had
treated, it's improved.
So somebody that's getting, it's not necessarily meaning that they're going to get all these symptoms.
No, that's correct.
Yeah, because I've never really had the morning one,
No,
headaches.
no.
I've noticed people ask me before, what does it feel like? And after I use the machine, get a good night's sleep. The only thing I can think of is that hazy feeling that
Yes.
if you had too many drinks and you're hungover the next day.
Yes.
It's kind of exactly like that for me. Like
Absolutely.
just like drag your butt the whole
You're dragging.
day. So
Absolutely, yes. And for some folks, the symptoms are very subtle. For others, they're very distinct. Poor concentration, poor memory, feel like they're in a fog, can't recall. Some folks have many, many symptoms. It's very obvious and very distinct changes when they treat it and they improve the sleep. For other people, it's very subtle. But for other people, they've got other little signs or symptoms that they didn't aware, that they weren't aware was related to broken sleep.
Right.
Like, the leg, not saying that leg cramps are, it's all related to sleep apnea, but I've seen that in people, and the leg cramping and the aching has gone away.
yeah.
Or the nightmares disappeared, because a nightmare typically is a sign of stress, or not being settled for some reason. And certainly when you're in sleep apnea, in a sleep apnea event, that's stress.
Wow.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Hey, Joey, I'm going to make sure you watch this. A buddy of mine has nightmares. He's always telling me about them, and he wanted to get checked out and to see.
Absolutely. Yep. Anybody can get screened. No question.
What would be like the youngest person that you would ever see coming in here to deal with any of this?
Could be right from birth. But the youngest patient we currently have here in Halifax is 6.
Really?
Not typical.
Yeah.
Certainly typically under the age of 20 or so, the age of, majority. Typically, the root cause are tonsils and adenoids.
Yes.
Typically, with young people, they'll do a surgery and remove tonsils and adenoids.
That was the first thing that
fine.
the specialist looked at with me. He just shone, no, that's not the problem there.
That's right. Yeah. Typically, that'll hold you till you become an adult. But then you may have other jaw anomalies, a small lower jaw, a receded lower jaw, like we were talking about your jaw. Sometimes people, they've had teeth removed and then the other teeth moved together to fill the space, and then the space is smaller, or large tongues, thick palates, and you can't do surgery on all of that. So typically it's a hereditary tendency that if you've got it when you're young, typically it will come back when you're an older adult.
Yeah, I was told I can blame my mother for my sleep apnea.
Yes, you got the good and the bad.
That's
Very typically. Yeah, that's right.
No,
very typical.
This is all interesting. And I have been, like I told you earlier, I have been to a specialist and then to another specialist that says, I go for a consultation for a surgery on my jaw April 2nd next year. And of course, I'd watched the jaw surgery on YouTube. I'm still getting it.
Okay. That's a big surgery.
I know. Yeah. So, all right, getting back to this. Now, when I did my sleep study test, and she was like, yes, you're definitely getting a machine. She put it on me. She was explaining sleep cycles and whatnot with me as I was breathing in the whole time. The only thing I could think of was, holy cow, I can't really believe I can breathe through my nose this clean. It's been since I was a teenager since I could do that.
Yes.
And so I would take this machine home, try to get used to it. The first week, 2 weeks, basically impossible. The only thing I can really stress to everybody is just if you wake up in the middle of the night and you're unaware and you take it off, if you wake up earlier in the morning, if you have a half hour before you have to actually get up, put it on again.
Absolutely, Gary.
Any time that you're not sleeping, you don't notice it on, or you notice it that's not on your face.
Yes.
Put it back on, because the more it's on your face, better off.
Absolutely.
I went from correct me if I'm wrong, like a thermo hose, or is it a climate controlled hose?
Climate control hose, yes.
That was the first hose that I was using on the CPAP machine.
Okay.
And can you explain how that works?
Climate control hose has heated wires running through it.
Okay.
The purpose of it is to minimize condensation. If your night air should cool in your bedroom from the effects of a draft from the window or a fan, air conditioning, or cooler winter night. Because we have humidity running through the tubing, and warm air holds humidity more effectively.
Okay.
Like summer air.
Right, yeah.
But dry air can hold humidity. It's like winter air. It becomes very dry. And then the moisture will condense and bead in the tubing and gurgle and actually make the pressure less effective, aside from being annoying.
Right.
So it's pretty standard that we start everyone with the climate control tubing. Some people don't need to use it because their room is very, the temperature is very controlled, or they're in a warm apartment.
Right.
Not an issue, and it's as long as it's comfortable and effective, we'll give you the tubing that works best for your environment.
Right. And since then, she had put me on a regular hose.
Okay.
And it was in the summertime and
yes.
whatnot. So
yes.
Come to mind, is there a certain type of seasons or something? Let's say, you said that there's a controlled, if your room's a controlled temperature, you shouldn't have too many problems.
Yes.
But my rooms, I noticed it's I live in an older house.
Yes.
My room's starting to, so if it gets a little cooler in my room or whatnot, should I try one hose out? Or because I got both of them at home.
Unless you have a problem with the standard non-heated hose,
right?
I wouldn't worry about it.
Just go with it.
Just go with it. Some people use the non-heated hose in the summer.
Yeah.
And they use the heated hose in the winter
Okay.
when it's really cool.
Yeah, so I was
but
kind of wondering.
you can have the same problem in the summer if you have an air conditioning running and you've got
Yeah.
a very cold bedroom.
Yeah, right.
You'll have the same effect.
Yeah.
But no, if you're not having any trouble with the slimline non-heated hose, I would stay with it.
Right.
Yes.
Good, good.
Absolutely.
Now let's just go to my sleep study results. This is
Yes.
after I got kind of used to the machine.
Yes.
This was printed out a couple weeks ago. I got it printed out just before I came up to see you the first time.
Okay. Perfect. You're ready.
I was going to stop in this morning and do it. I got kind of caught up for time.
Mm-hmm.
So I just brought the one from a couple weeks ago as well.
Yes.
And I do believe this is the right one, is it? Or maybe...
So these are the comments from your first test.
Oh, maybe...
Thinking maybe you had a download from your CPAP to go over.
Yeah, I thought I had a new updated one.
Oh, okay. This is just your sleep study.
Yeah, that's just a study there.
Yep, and the comments from the sleep physician showing the diagnosis of the,
Oh, okay,
of the
I must-
severe sleep apnea.
Must not
Yeah.
have that sheet with me.
So on your download from your CPAP, ideally we want to bring the 63.5 apneas per hour that you had on your test without the machine down to the normal range, which is generally considered to be 5 or lower.
Yeah, actually, I was reading, or I read my machine every morning I get up. I open my
Yes.
eyes and I look over, and as soon as I hit that button, I stare at
See
it.
your report. Good.
Because it does tell you how
Yes.
the night before that you did. So
It does. Excellent.
I've been, besides my cold I had a few days ago, which I'm over now, I'm waking up and I'm getting 7 hours. Mm-hmm. I haven't worked out the averages, but about
Yeah.
7 hours roughly of sleep, not
Yeah.
broken.
Good.
And I'm down to 1.1.
Perfect.
And it hasn't
excellent.
been over 4 in, I guess, a little while anyway.
Yep, that's excellent.
But yeah, I just feel
right
like
where we want you to be.
celebrating when I see those.
That's perfect. That's exactly what you want. Yeah.
So that machine
that's
shows
ideal.
how many times an hour that you woke up, and it displays the leaks
Yes.
that you have.
Yes.
And what was the other one? Oh, it just shows the amount of time that you were actually had the machine on.
Had the
you.
mask on.
Yeah,
Yes,
right.
exactly. That's right. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, exactly. And the reason that, I know some people might be wondering this, the reason that the apnea numbers are allowed to be up as high as 5 per hour, that's considered the normal range,
Mm-hmm.
or the hypopnea numbers, is that it's fairly normal for all of us to look as though we're holding our breath or breathing shallow for a period of time during REM sleep, especially the dreaming sleep, or changing position. And the machine, it's maybe calling it an apnea. Could be a central. It might think it's a central, but it's you just holding your breath when you're dreaming or when you're turning over, which is why with a central apnea number of 0.7 per hour,
Oh, I get it. You're right.
perfectly fine.
Yeah,
that
right.
could just be a breath hold because you turned over.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that's all normal. Certainly changing the pressures on the CPAP to a level that's still comfortable, we could bring the apnea numbers down to 0. It's possible.
Yeah.
But we need to maintain comfort and effective treatment.
Right.
Comfort always has to be number one.
Yeah.
And really, in the sleep medicine field, 0 up to 5 apneas and hypopneas per hour is considered to be acceptable. If you're sleeping well, your mask is, sealing really well, and you're feeling the benefit.
Right.
And it sounds like you're doing all of the above.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It feels
great.
like it. It feels like it for sure. Anyway.
Perfect.
Yeah, I don't even
It's
notice
ideal.
the thing on my face. You're right. You're right
that's
about
right.
the comfortability being the most important part, because the
Yes.
effectiveness would have nothing to do with it if you didn't want it on your
You
face.
got it. That's right. But the thing with CPAP success, Gary, is number one, you have to be ready
Yeah.
to do the test
Yeah.
and ready to do something with the results.
Yeah.
So until you're there, don't stress about it. You need time to digest this new information and then be ready to take on the treatment that's the best or the gold standard for sleep apnea is the CPAP.
Yeah.
And the CPAP often gets a bad rap in the community because it's a machine and people think it's noisy and it's big and it's a mask. They've improved immensely over the years,
Absolutely.
even in the 20 years I've been in the field, to the point that If your machine is noisy, there's something wrong with it.
Yeah, right.
Masks, there are so many. There are probably 50 on the market.
Oh, really?
So many styles. You should be able to find something. And if you have an attentive clinician or a good clinic that you're working with who will listen to your concerns, no matter how large or small they are, they can help you on the journey to better compliance and comfort and then treatment. But you need to be ready and patient to work with the CPAP and work with us.
That's right.
To try a different mask or to keep putting it back on. Like you said, every time you wake and it's off, your body's adapting. It's not normal to go to sleep with this on. But you have to just like putting on my glasses. I just kept putting them on and now my body has accepted them.
Yeah, right.
And it's part of normal for me.
Yeah.
You know, and now this is part of normal for you to sleep with it. And you feel the benefit. Now you're self-motivated to continue to wear it. You're not wearing it for your mother or your doctor or for your clinic.
No.
You're wearing it for Gary.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Yeah, I'm wearing it to prevent like stroke or heart disease and all that. I'm sure there's been growing up, I've done enough to my body to just being stupid, like, and now it's just getting into my late 30s. I'm like, I gotta do something about all the stuff that I've done and fix up some of the stuff that I had no control over.
That's right. Yep. Look after Gary for long term. Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing.
I thought to myself a couple weeks ago, how I would say how somebody should really stick to this would be like, if you go to get on a cast, and let's say I broke my foot, that cast is on there for 4 months, right? And my foot can't move and I hate it, but you get used to it.
Yes.
After 4 months rolls by, you take the cast off, your leg's little and you have to go through everything and physiotherapy and whatnot.
Yes.
But this is like something that's so really easy and that you do at home. And you're probably, and it's not even saving you, it's also saving people that are sleeping near you.
Absolutely.
Your employer at work, he'll thank you when you're not tied up in a machine. I can say this because it never really became a problem, but with my job I would be standing at a production line and I nodded off standing up, not to the point where but what was that? Where did I go for a second?
Yes.
And people can do that. Never done that driving because I don't drive a whole lot.
Right.
But it was, after that, it's just like, oh God.
Yeah.
Hope I get a good sleep tonight.
Exactly. Well, it affects your functioning, and you become a safety hazard for yourself and other people around you. Very much so.
It affects growth hormone too, doesn't it?
Yes. Definitely. Yes.
Sleep.
Absolutely. Like I say, when your body is sleeping, it's doing work. Yes, it's balancing the hormones and repairing and detoxifying and building immunity, and it takes energy and regular sleep schedules and that sort of thing to set the body up for routine so it can do its work.
Have you ever experienced apnea yourself?
I can't say I have.
No
No
loved ones in your family that haven't?
Nobody close to me yet.
Really?
No.
Yeah, you're just so involved with this work.
Exactly, that's right. I see everybody else. I know. It's pretty common. I'm surprised I haven't.
Yeah.
They say it's 1 in 5 people has sleep apnea.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's pretty common.
All right, well, I guess we have... you can also... this is something I wrote down that was mentioned to me before. These machines, if you're serious about it, you'll get it. Some people don't have the coverage to help them out.
That's correct.
There's a place, I don't know where the location is, but they have refurbished machines as well, right?
Yes.
And
used machines.
And they're quite considerably a little bit lower or price.
The Lung Association will accept donated machines that are used. Some of them are practically new models, some would be older models, but they'll take donated machines that people are done with. Apparently the Lions Club will as well now.
Oh, wow.
They're working with the Lung Association because you're right, these machines are not cheap. And everyone deserves to have treatment, whether they have the money or they don't have insurance or they do.
Right.
So that would be a free machine for them. There's a bit of a wait list. And the person would just need to go to a clinic and purchase a mask and a new tubing.
Oh, wow.
Have the machine set for them, and the clinic would follow them.
Yeah.
to make sure that they're getting the adequate treatment.
Yeah, you're right
Yes.
about the
Yeah.
whole consulting back and forth and whatnot. Because
Yes.
like I treat the ladies at Sleep Therapeutics in Truro.
Yes.
They're like my best friend. I love those women.
Oh yes, you get to know them well.
Yeah, they're absolutely great.
Absolutely.
Anything that I
Yeah.
need, like I said, I had those printouts done up, and
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh yeah, come down. I'll just print them right out for
no
you
problem.
and
Gonna
everything."
Help you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we do very close follow-up to make sure that your experience is positive and that you stay positive about it and know that we're listening and
Yeah.
we're trying to make this effective and work for you, because we know it works, but you need to find the right combination of settings, machine, and mask for Gary.
Yeah, right.
And it sounds like you're there.
Oh.
great.
I like to feel that way anyway.
That's right.
Oh yeah. By the way, we went over just the numbers here.
Yes.
But what are the severities, like the level of severities?
Good question.
And what the
Yes.
numbers are for them?
So as we spoke about, 0 to 5 or so is considered in the normal range. Now, having said that, I've had people that have tested and their numbers come out in the normal range, but they're very symptomatic, very sleepy, broken sleep, restless sleep, and they've tried CPAP therapy. It's worked great for them. It's just whether you'll get funding or not through your insurance, it could be the issue. So just saying that, well, my numbers are, under 5, then everything should be perfect. It may not be.
Right.
Goal is to get it as low as possible, feeling like you've got good sleep.
Yep.
5 to 15 apneas and hypopneas per hour is considered mild. 15 to 30 is considered moderate, and anything over 30 per hour is considered severe. But that doesn't necessarily correlate or jive with your symptoms either. So it's a bit of a misunderstanding that, well, if I'm only mild sleep apnea, it's nothing to worry about. Or, gee, I'm only mild sleep apnea. Gee, I feel horrible. And it could be the opposite. I've had severe sleep apnea results, like yours, and the patient's not even aware they have a problem.
Yeah.
They've been told they snore and they feel fine. This is a very individual experience. The thing to remember is sleep apnea is sleep apnea. A heart attack is a heart attack, whether you call it mild or severe.
Yeah.
Sleep apnea's there.
That's a good way to put it.
Yes, and it needs to be treated, because left untreated, it can worsen as well.
Right.
Often does.
Yeah,
As we age and there's more muscle relaxation,
That's
or
what
weight comes on.
Yeah, right. That's what I mentioned to, I think it was the last specialist I was to. And I was like, well, if there's a surgery that I can get things fixed up from my case that I have,
Right.
I'll be getting the surgery. And I just said to him, I was like, well, it doesn't really, CPAP machine's good right now while I'm waiting to get my problem fixed.
Yes.
And everybody has their own problems or issues with the sleep apnea, how it came to be.
Yeah.
But I said, as I get older, this is probably going to get worse. So I'm also just start off as fresh as I can. That way I can be comfortable as long as I can.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. No, that's proven fact.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So when you get old, it even gets like a little looser.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, damn age.
Yeah, exactly. It's the golden years.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I think I pretty much got to everything that I wanted to ask you on this. How am I doing for? Oh, it's 52 minutes. I'm almost done here anyway.
Excellent.
Oh, very good. Now, is there anything? Actually, what's the worst case of sleep apnea you've ever seen? Numbers wise.
I would say the worst case, the person stopped breathing and had hypopnea 128 times per hour.
Oh, wow. That's double what mine is. And mine's double severe.
Yes, and yours is double severe. So twice every, if 60 times in an hour is once every minute, so every 30 seconds, they were stopping breathing or shallow breathing.
That's
very
brutal.
It's very significant.
So, that person, were they, did they have any kind of long-term effects out of this? Like anything that stuck with them or?
This particular one was fairly overweight,
Okay.
But sleepiness was predominant. She was a preschool teacher sitting on a chair, on a stool, reading books to the children and falling asleep on the stool. So really, really affecting her.
Right.
Yes, almost. And really, depression and anxiety can often set in as well as a result of feeling so poorly all the time.
Right.
It really starts to affect you.
Yeah, because
that
they'll
was
drag your
affecting
physical
her.
self down. Your physical
Yes.
self will drag your mental, or it might be the other way
Absolutely.
around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And those were predominant.
Wow, 128
factors.
times an hour, huh?
An hour. When you think about it per hour, that's not even looking at the number of events or apneas or hypopneas in the night. Because when you hear how many you have in the night, the whole night, it's wow. It's hard to believe there's enough time to have all those events.
No, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Well,
No.
thank you very much for giving me your time. This has
You're
been
so
very good.
welcome.
If
I've
there's
enjoyed
anything
it.
else you would like to add, please.
Yes. I think I added a few pieces in as we went, just to make people aware that and any age can develop sleep apnea.
Definitely.
From the age of 6. The youngest patient we have here on CPAP that's using it, on a full-time basis would be in early 20s. The 6-year-old is just waiting for surgery on the tonsils, but in the meantime, when he's sick with a throat infection, he'll wear the CPAP. He's doing great with it.
Awesome.
Great.
Really
Youngest would be in the 20s, and again, that's predominantly hereditary.
Yeah.
Because the parents and the grandparents had it. The oldest patient we have is 93.
Oh, wow.
And both of these people are very small, petite people.
So the 93-year-old, would they have like earlier versions of CPAP, like from years ago, and then seen stages?
No, they've only been studied in the past year.
Really?
Yes.
So this is like basically going to give them,
better quality of life for however long they have.
Yeah.
And that's why they're doing it. And they're otherwise healthy, and they're doing it to maintain a good quality of life for however long they have.
Awesome.
So that's motive. There's really two motivating factors to treating sleep apnea. Number one, to get rid of current pain or struggles or symptoms that are currently occurring, and the other is to prevent future symptoms and pain from occurring.
Right.
And my 93-year-old lady is wearing this to prevent further stress on the heart and poor quality of life.
That's excellent.
Yes, and hopefully have longer life.
Yeah, right.
Than she would without it.
I think you can tell me if it ties in or not, but one main thing that, as far as my health and moving around, eating healthier, sleeping better, drinking more water, everything, just trying to do what I can to keep myself a little bit more sharp. I've always had a really bad fear of Alzheimer's.
Oh, yes.
And Alzheimer's, my grandfather actually was a brilliant man, great man, and that's how he went out.
Yes.
And it was very sad to see, I hate to think my parents would have it,
Yes.
And so I'm just trying to put things together to add up how I can try to avoid all of that. I don't know if sleep affects how the brain comes into Alzheimer's, but I've actually been reading or listening to a bunch of podcasts on Alzheimer's, and it just scares me. I just want to keep the head clear as possible.
Absolutely. Well, it's a really good question, a really good point, because they have seen a direct relation between broken sleep, poor sleep for whatever reason, and the onset of Alzheimer's, possibly dementia. Because if you think back to our sleep cycles, sleep stages, the sleep stages that all of us need involve our awake, our light, our deep for the body. But in the deep sleep, the brain also detoxifies in the deep sleep. So it actually flushes out the toxins or the poisons that's in the fluid running through the spinal cord in the brain. And if you don't flush the toxins out, that's how dementia and Alzheimer's begins.
Really?
Yes, I know there's a distinction between the two, so I'm not sure. I know there are different mechanisms with dementia and Alzheimer's, but that sort of condition can be avoided by making sure your sleep is unbroken and solid and restful.
Very interesting.
Yes, they've found a direct connection now.
Wow.
Yes, yeah. And you can have broken sleep and poor sleep for reasons other than a sleep disorder.
Yep.
So this is not just for the sleep apnea patients. This is for anyone who is not getting enough sleep or taking stimulants before bed or overthinking while in bed and causing insomnia. That you have to find a way to unload before bed, whether it's a hot shower or yoga or writing down your thoughts. Like, you've got to clear your mind, because when you go to sleep, you've got to let go of the world and let your body do what it needs to do. Or yes.
Yeah, very important.
Impact will be there. Very important.
So yoga helps too, eh?
Yes, to relax you, and meditation.
Do you do yoga?
No.
But it does.
I'm a hardcore person. It's going to be hardcore or nothing. But for other people it works. But I have no issues, touch wood, with
Yeah, right.
sleep onset, getting to sleep. I can shut my brain off, no problem. But some people can't. They do their best thinking in sleep, and you've got to find a way to shut it off, because it will come back to affect you. It will catch up to you.
That explains so much.
Really does. And the more they research sleep and broken sleep, the impact is direct. I've heard a doctor say that now they're considering sleep deprivation to be a carcinogenic.
Oh, wow.
They have stated that. Broken sleep, sleep deprivation, or going to bed late, the nighthawk variety.
Yeah.
Yes.
So do you think
risk.
So do you think with shift work, do you think yes, definitely, huh?
Shift work is tricky. I'm going to be doing a little talk next week in Truro on that.
Oh, is that right?
To some shift workers. Shift work is challenging because our bodies run on an internal rhythm, which says it's a 24-hour clock, and when it's dark and it's cool, our bodies produce melatonin. That's our stimulus to go to sleep. Right. And when the sun comes up and it gets warmer, stimulus to wake up, produces serotonin, that's our wake-up hormone. When you do shift work, whether it's periodic or it's permanent or it's rotating, you're sleeping when you should be awake and you're working when you should be sleeping, and your circadian rhythm is all mixed up and unbalanced. Could be falling asleep at work. You could have insomnia in the day when you're supposed to be sleeping. For some people, it's hard to avoid shift work.
Yeah.
So minimal change is optimal. So if you've got to work shift work, maintain the same shift. Just do all nights.
Yes.
Because gradually your circadian rhythm will shift and you'll become almost like you're nocturnal. So your body will be used to sleeping in the day at the same time, and you make a very dark, quiet, cool room to mimic nighttime. And do the opposite in the night. You know, some people will work with lights, keep it warm, and then, your body will stay awake.
So when you mentioned something about warmer shower, would that mimic would that kind of trick your body into thinking, like, when it cools off, then you're just like,
The effect of the warming, it can have two effects. If it's warm and it's sunny, more the light will actually wake you up, but having a warm shower can actually help to initiate sleep as well, and more so to increase deep sleep.
Okay.
So that's one of the tricks they say to increase your deep sleep. Have meditation before bed, slow down, relax, and have a warm shower.
Huh.
So, or doing some light exercise, warming up your body, because the body cooling its body temperature helps sleep onset.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Right on. Awesome. I think you're coming to Truro, next week to do a talk?
Yes.
Is this a public talk?
No, unfortunately not. It's at an employer, so I never leave the clinic, but
I would love it if I got a hold of you and wanted you to come in and talk about shift work to my bosses.
Yes.
I think it's really important. There's a lot of people... And I'm not hating on anybody at all, but there's a lot of people that can get moody in that place, or maybe they're dragging their butt all day when they're working and whatnot. I've been accused of being pretty snappy in the past and whatnot. But yeah, that's interesting. Maybe I'll look into that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because sometimes you can't avoid shift work. Somebody's got to do these jobs, but working with it the best you can, or knowing some tricks on how to optimize the sleep that you need to get, or minimize the impact, again, by not changing the shift all the time.
Yeah.
Maintain the same
I've seen
shift.
a lot of different, like 2 days on here and then the
Yes.
next 2 days you're on nights.
That's
like,
not healthy.
That's not good.
It's really not
Yeah.
ideal at all.
Yeah.
So that's something that came up. So we're going to do a little presentation.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes, gets me out of the office. Doesn't happen very often.
That's right.
Doesn't happen very often.
All right, well, thanks again.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure, Gary.
Yeah,
I've
this has
enjoyed
been-
chatting with you.